Hello and welcome to this new ER2 modding SDK tutorial. Today we're gonna take a better look on some more configuration for your custom weapon mods. So here we got the weapon we configured in the last tutorial. We can select it and we can go to check the inspector on the right. So the first thing we have here are the collision. The placeholder normally already have quite good collision for the weapon template you choose. But you can do some more final adjustment here, just making sure everything is following quite well the weapon model you have. Consider that you might want to add or remove some box collider here. You can easily do by clicking here and adding a new box collider, selecting this one, or you can remove one by clicking here and choose remove component. We can now move and take a look to generic gun to check very quickly some more configuration settings here. So the first thing we can see here is the mass, which is the weight of the gun in the inventory. We also have the icon for your weapon. In this case, we assign this icon here. To assign a new icon, you can just import a PNG or a JPEG into the project folder. Mark it as sprite and apply once you change the texture type. Go back to the weapon and assign it to the gun icon parameter. Now here we got this left hand pose, which is the position of the left hand when you are gonna take a look to your soldier holding the weapon in third person. So basically this is the anchor position where the left hand will be placed in third person position, in third person view, or when taking a look at the bots. So this is the position of the left hand when you're looking to your soldier in third person view, or when you're looking at the bots holding this weapon. We can configure this a little bit better if we click on enable disable hand placement. So here we can see that the hand placement is correct, but if we take the left hand pose or whatever value is assigned here, we can move this one or rotate it and see the hand following us correctly. We can also adjust the position for the right hand, and that depends on the origin of the weapon, as said in the previous tutorial. Normally this is correct if you model your weapon correctly in Blender, but if you want to adjust this, you can select everything inside your weapon root and you can move everything around until it fits your hand position. So next we can take a look at this parameter here, user controller, which is basically the animation set for when looking at your character in third person. Here we got this placeholder value, but we can use more values and in future you will be able to create your own animation here. To check what values you can input from base game animations, you can go to mod menu, documentation, string tables, and open this link. Scroll down until you see user TPS animation controller set. You will see that this is the same exact variable we are editing, and these are all the possible sets you can put on your weapon. We are using CCV2 rifle, which is the third person animation set for bolt action rifle, but as this is a automatic gun, probably something like CCV2 BAR works better for us, because this is described as third person animation set for an assault rifle, which is what we are doing right now. IK when sprinting means that we want to anchor our left hand to the weapon where we are sprinting. Normally we want this on, unless we are using some set here that doesn't use both hands when sprinting. For example, we can use CCV2 rifle GER, which stands for Germany, because this is the TPS animation set for bolt action rifle when using the German sprint, where the rifle is held with only one hand, the right one. So the left hand won't need to be anchored to the position when doing the German run, for example. It's not the case for the BAR though, so we are gonna keep this on. We can also change the run in first person. So we got the normal rifle run, the pistol run, the German rifle run, again only with right hand, and the Japanese rifle run. We can keep the normal rifle run here. Moving on, we got the local pose in hands. These are values just to adjust your weapon in case you did some mistakes. We're gonna explain them later on in another tutorial. Then we got the weapon pose. This basically means if this is supposed to be a rifle or a pistol. Rifle, of course, stands for basically everything that is not a single held weapon. Then we got our sounds. As you can see, we assigned this SMG fire sound for this weapon and this distance fire SMG sound. Normally, this is enough for this setup. However, if you're setting up something like a flamethrower where you want some looping sound, you can assign this value. We can also assign a start and a tail sound before starting and finishing the looping sound. For automatic weapons, I still suggest to use the normal fire sound, even if the loopable sound sometimes can even fit some machine guns. We then have muzzle velocity, which is the speed of the bullet leaving the chamber, which is the speed of the bullet leaving the barrel. We got bullet dispersion, which is the randomized angle of dispersion of the bullets. 1.7 degrees is quite high. We can reduce this one. Of course, if you're setting up a shotgun, you might want a very big bullet dispersion. We can skip some values sometimes because this will be documented later on or in another tutorial. But basically this is the effect for the muzzle flash fire. Here we got the compatible ammo with this weapon. This can be found again in our documentation in string tables, and it's here the first table we have. As you can see, it says here that this is the value we are searching for, and here are all the current available caliber for the game. Later on in another tutorial we will explain how to create your custom ones. With ammo space, we are determining how many ammos can be stored inside the weapon without a magazine attached. So normally you might have a weapon having a bullet chambered in the barrel, meaning that the space of bullets inside the weapon without the magazine is 1. Sometimes you have some open bolt weapons where the bullet is never chambered and it's only entering the barrel while firing. In that case you might want ammo space to be 0. Some other times you might have weapons without magazine at all, for example bolt action rifles like the Kar98, which fits all the bullets inside the gun itself. In that case you can put how many bullets the gun can hold. For example, the Kar98 would hold 5 bullets. We can also set the current ammo, which is the actual amount of ammo inside the weapon when the weapon spawns, which should be normally the same amount of ammo as the ammo space. We can now set if the weapon is supposed to be a manual bolt operated. Normally this parameter is set automatically when you create your weapon template, however you can change it in any moment. You can select if you want your weapon to allow aiming downside when using the bolt action. If this is an automatic weapon, you might assign a spin position, which is basically your bolt that moves back and forth. And you can set how much you want it to move while shooting. You might want to leave the open bolt after last fire shot. Normally this is something that open bolt weapon does. You can set, but we already did it in the last tutorial, the bullet eject position, which is the position where your cartridges are spawned after firing your bullet. You can set the socket of your magazine, but you should already know that. And this should be the same value as your magazine you want to be compatible with this weapon. You have the position where the weapon will attach the magazine. You have the fire mode of your weapon. You have how many rounds per minute the weapon can shoot. You can also add alternative round per minute. For example, You can switch between 300 and 500 rounds per minute, adding an extra value here. This is very rare, but some weapons, such as the BAR, can allow to have multiple selector for round per minute. You have the power of the recoil. Normally for a rifle 2 is good. You can set if the weapon can aim without a bipod. Normally, if this is not a super heavy weapon, you can allow that. You have the position where you want to aim. Normally this is just 1, and it's a position that you want to align with your sights. But you can also have another one. For example, let's move it here just so we don't lose it, and move it a little bit up. So now we have 2 aim positions, and now you're gonna see why. So basically, when I'm shooting close, I want to align normally my sight, but if I want to shoot a little bit more far, I might want to align my sight a little bit upper with the second aim position. This also can apply when you have an adjustable sight, which is something we will take a look at later. So when we create the second or the third or whenever other aim position, we can go back here and add another one. So now we can adjust our shooting distance between 2 positions, or more if we want. So now let's see how to add an adjustable sight. First, you need an adjustable sight model. It can be inside your weapon FBX model, but in this case we got it as separate model. So let me place it in the weapon. I can place it in whatever position. In this case I will just put it here where we got the normal sight. So this is how this works. In this model we got the cage model, which is just a static model, and the pivot. The pivot model is supposed to rotate up and down and select a higher aiming position when the pivot is rotated, and a lower aim position when it's in the default rotation. We expect this rotation to happen at exactly 90 degrees angle in the x-axis. So we got the pivot at 0 rotation when we are aiming down, and minus 90 when we are aiming a little bit up. Now you can see why having 2 aim positions makes sense, and why they need to be one on top of another. Simply because when the pivot of the adjustable sight is rotated in the standard rotation, we want the aiming position to align with the sight in this rotation. And when the sight pivot is rotated by 90 degrees, we want the second aim position to be aligned with this second rotation. Some adjustable sights can have multiple rotation and multiple angles, so you can have even more aim positions, but in this case 2 aim positions are fine. So to finalize this, we need first to add our sample gun adjustable sight model inside our actual weapon, so we can drag and drop it inside the root of it. We can set the rotation to the standard rotation, and we can add an adjustable sight script. To set up this, you will have to put your position and rotation of your sight when it's in the default position here, and when it's up rotated here. Here it says at 500 meters, but actually this is at the distance put here. So our adjustable sight, for example, we want it to rotate at 200 meters, and this is not gonna be 500 meters adjustment, but it's gonna be 200. You can have middle positions here when you have more than 1 aim position, but as we have only 1 standard and 1 adjusted aim position, we're gonna have the start and the end rotation and position of our adjustable sight. So in this case we want to put the original rotation and the original position of our adjustable sight in the at 100 meter shift pose and at 100 meter shift rot. So this is the position we got when the sight is not adjusted. When the sight is adjusted, again, the position is gonna be the same in this case, but the rotation is gonna change by 90 degrees in the x-axis. We can now restore our rotation, and the script is now correctly set up. The last thing to do is to assign the sight pivot component to the adjustable sight property in our custom weapon script. Also make sure to have both the aim position set up properly. To switch between the adjustable positions in game, normally you have to click on page up and page down button on your keyboard, but you can rebind the button in game settings, of course. Of course, if your sight was added after you set up the LOD, you might want to put it in the LOD group script. In this case, I will only put it to the LOD 0, because at distance, I don't really care if this little sight is rendered or not. We got the field of view when aiming down sight. We got the usual fire position, which in this case is at the end of the barrel, of course. We got the supported attachment from this weapon. Attachments can be created in a similar way to magazines, but we are taking a look at this in a later tutorial. We got the sight up and sight down models that we can enable when adding or removing a scope to our weapon. We're gonna take a look at this in another tutorial. Here we got all our animations data. So as you can see, our animation data is set to use generic magazine setup. We can have different kind of setups of first-person animations here, or we can use our custom animations, which then is gonna use all this setup here. I'm gonna leave this to generic magazine right now. So this is the setup for reloading a first-person weapon with a generic magazine. I'm gonna explain the custom animation in a later tutorial. And finally, we got other animation settings that we're gonna explain later as well. The only thing you maybe might want to look at here is the disable on fire. So let's assume you have a weapon like a Panzerfaust, which has a charge that you want to despawn when shooting, because in game when you're shooting, you're actually shooting a new bullet and your rocket model of your Panzerfaust or whatever weapon is not really gonna be shoot from your weapon. So you might want to link it here from your weapon model to make it disable when you fire. Okay, so this is basically all for some more deeper configuration of your weapons. In the next weapon tutorial, we're gonna take a better look on all the other parameters that we didn't check today, such as the supported attachment and the animations.